famous actress and producer there in Hollywood. Actress Diane Keaton has now died at the age of 79.
She was famous for her roles in as Annie Hall in The Godfather and Something's Gotta Give.
I'd been blessed, straight up. But Hollywood's got smiles that hide storm clouds, and Diane Keaton's last message might be the lightning strike everyone missed. It makes me feel like you are crazy because the vibe was eerie and real at the same time. Before she slipped out of the spotlight, she recorded something. A cryptic drop that left even her closest friends frozen, mouths shut, eyes wide. Can't imagine. 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s without you. Love you, Diane. That's the line that still echoes like a voicemail you can't delete. Was it a confession, a warning, or Hollywood's unsent love letter to one of its most misunderstood icons, the one they never truly figured out? Let's find out, because the questions won't quit. They say some stars don't fade, they haunt the room, and Diane with the hats, the quick wit, and the mystery just joined that club. She was the eccentric darling who turned every entrance into a headline, and suddenly the lights felt colder without her. At 79, Keaton was found unresponsive in her California home, and the shock hit like a punch to the chest. On October 11th, the Los Angeles Fire Department said they rushed a 79-year-old woman to a nearby hospital. But the cause of death is still up in the air. No signs of trauma, no official statement, no clue about what went down inside that Brentwood mansion, just a heavy, echoing silence. She started moving different, and that's where it got weird. Just weeks before the end, Diane was pulling back from everything, canceling appearances, dodging cameras, and low-key putting her dream house on the market without a big splash. This wasn't a random move, it felt deliberate. This wasn't just any house, it was that architectural showpiece she once said she'd never leave, and then suddenly she bounced with zero explanation. Friends said she wasn't herself, tired, distracted, distant, and nobody could pin down why, which only made the vibe feel heavier. Then the family put out a statement, brief, controlled, and ice-cold to some ears. Her family has asked for privacy in this moment of great sadness, a line Hollywood uses all the time, but here it only sparked more questions. Privacy from what exactly? Some sources claim the house got sealed off quick, with access limited even for close friends, which raised even more eyebrows. Whispers kept swirling about the timeline not matching up, with some saying first responders showed up before anyone dialed 911, which sounds wild and needs receipts for real. Inside circles allegedly buzzed that a private "keep it quiet" request went out to media within hours. Some call that standard protocol, others call it straight-up damage control. Was the family trying to protect Diane's dignity, or to keep certain details from spilling out, because the last few months already had people side-eyeing everything, selling the house, stepping away from projects, talking about putting things in order, and that mysterious final message only the family has heard. So what really went down inside that house? Natural causes, a private illness, or something the industry would rather we don't poke at too hard? I'm not claiming anything. I'm laying out the whispers and asking the questions everyone else keeps dodging, respectfully and for real. This town can turn heartbreak into a polished narrative in a snap, and everyone knows it. Tragedy becomes a tidy script before the truth even gets a chance to breathe. That's why people get cautious when the storyline lands a little too perfect, a little too fast. Right now, in this narrative, Diane Keaton's passing reads less like a closed book and more like the first chapter of a puzzle. And that's exactly why the conversation won't stay quiet. Before she was Hollywood's beloved oddball, the one who made awkward cool and hats iconic, she was also a woman wrestling with herself in private, keeping it composed on the outside while fighting storms on the inside. Behind the sharp wit and that charming, nervous laugh was someone battling self-doubt, rigid self-control, and long silences, a struggle she later confronted in her own words, not as gossip, but as truth she chose to share. In her 20s, just as her rise was starting to hit, Diane dealt with bulimia, a serious health issue she revealed publicly, showing courage and honesty instead of hiding behind the gloss. She was cast in Broadway's Hair in 1968, and the director allegedly told her she'd get the lead if she lost weight, a moment that, by her account, set a harsh pattern in motion. Diane later admitted in her memoir, then again, that she became expert at hiding the disorder, calling that period a lie built on perfectionism, secrecy, and shame, the exact image machine Hollywood has too often celebrated. She kept it quiet, but here's where the vibe turns darker. Years later, at the American Film Awards, Woody Allen, her longtime collaborator and ex-boyfriend, cracked a joke about her eating disorder in front of everyone, like it was harmless banter. "I didn't know she was bulimic," he told the crowd. "If I knew she was throwing it up, I could have taken her to Pizza Hut." The room laughed. Diane laughed, but a lot of people watching felt that chill, because who turns a woman's pain into a punchline and calls it entertainment? Hollywood's glitter can look bright, but moments like that expose a cold edge that cuts deep. Even though Diane played along, folks close to her said it shook her, and not lightly. It hit a nerve that had history behind it. That joke, according to one insider, stuck with her, and you could see why. When you've battled something heavy, even a harmless crack can reopen the door to old pressure and old control issues. Decades later, those shadows didn't just vanish. The perfection, the pressure, the need to look fine no matter what, they all lingered, slow and stubborn. Diane once said bulimia was a mental illness driven by an overabundant need for more, too much of everything. And that line hits like truth because it names the storm without glamorizing it. Maybe that's why she kept moving nonstop, reinventing, stacking roles, collecting houses and memories, chasing order like it was armor against chaos, all subtle symbols of control. But control can be glass. Looks solid, cracks easy. And when her health started slipping, some believed that same obsessive drive might have crept back in quieter, more damaging ways, the kind you don't notice until it's right there in your face. To the world, she was the charming oddball who turned anxious energy into style. But behind closed doors, Diane Keaton's smile was armor, not vanity, built for survival in a business that bites back hard. In the wake of her mysterious death, people started asking if the inner war she thought she'd beaten ever truly let go. Because in a town where loyalty is rare and self-preservation is the currency, Diane never learned the cold rules of the Hollywood game, and she still stood by her people even when the crowd flipped on them. That unwavering loyalty, the very glow that made her beloved, might have been the same spark that scuffed her image when the storms rolled in and the receipts get messy fast. "Where did Sleeper come in?" she was asked once, a quick flashback to the timeline that shaped everything. "This before?" It was early. Yeah. That was great fun. Her connection with Woody Allen wasn't just business, it was personal, emotional, and deep. A creative lock-in that kept pulling them back to the same stage like fate had them on speed dial. They met in the early 70s, both rising with that jittery charm and matching quirks, and together they cooked up moments that still echo. Play It Again, Sam, Sleeper, Love, and Death. And of course, Annie Hall, the one that put an Oscar in her hands and stamped her as the ultimate thinking man's muse. What started as pure chemistry on set wasn't just acting, it was her, raw and real, and that creative spark soon twisted into something way more complicated than anyone expected. The romance fizzled out, sure, but the loyalty didn't, not even close. In the public eye, they became inseparable, the quirky duo that blurred the line between a script and real life, like you couldn't tell where the scene ended and the person began. Then the storm hit. Woody Allen faced accusations of child abuse, and Diane didn't step back or hedge. She stood tall and refused to condemn him. Straight up. She publicly defended him, holding her ground even as the noise rose around her. And yes, there's that clipped interview moment. So, whenever one comes up, a fragment that still gets replayed and debated. While a lot of Hollywood moved away during the Me Too reckoning, Keaton took the other route, no detour. She tweeted, "Woody Allen is my friend, and I continue to believe him," and even linked that old 60 Minutes interview where Allen denied the allegations. And that single post flipped the whole conversation overnight. Suddenly, Diane, long seen as a feminist icon and a symbol of self-respect, was painted by some as the face of denial for a movement built on exposing abuse, and the reaction went loud fast. Reddit threads lit up, think pieces stacked, and timelines got heated. Former fans called her tone-deaf, out of touch, even complicit, while others argued her stance was about personal loyalty, not dismissing harm. Some wondered if that loyalty blurred her view, or if she knew details the public never saw. Either way, the debate locked in and hasn't let go. After all, Keaton stepped in for Mia Farrow on Manhattan Murder Mystery in 1993, right in the middle of Woody Allen's very public custody fight and headline-making allegations. A switch that some read as loyalty and others read as betrayal, plain and simple. But Diane didn't flinch. She stood by her friend the way she always had, and sources close to both have long said Allen appreciated that loyalty a lot. He even showed up to her AFI Life Achievement tribute in 2017, a rare appearance where he called her a great inspiration, and said he owed a big part of his career to her, which landed like a salute in front of the whole room. That kind of loyalty isn't free in Hollywood, though. Insiders claim her stance quietly closed a few doors, and by the 2000s, some people stopped calling for certain projects, turning that warmth to cool without saying it out loud. One source said there were unspoken consequences. And yeah, even a few longtime admirers drifted away. But Diane kept her chin up and moved how she wanted, not how the room told her to move. She wasn't chasing applause anymore. She was firm about it. "I believe my friend," she told The Guardian in 2014, adding, "I have nothing else to say about that." And she left it there without a single extra word. Now, after her death, that same friendship is back in bold letters. And a source close to Allen says he was extremely distraught and genuinely surprised by the news, calling it a shock that made him think about his own mortality in a serious way. What really turned heads, though, was another detail. Despite supposedly staying in touch, he reportedly had no idea her health was failing, which lines up with what others said. "Nobody seemed to know," the source added, underscoring just how private things had become in those final months. That reveal raised even more eyebrows, for real. How could someone so close, someone she defended for decades, not know she was unwell in the first place? Was Diane creating distance on purpose? Or did something, or someone, keep them apart, which is eerie in a poetic way? The woman who once risked her name for loyalty spent her final months almost completely off the grid. She sold her home, stepped back from the spotlight, and barely spoke to anyone. And then came that rumored final message said to be recorded in private, making folks wonder if it held a confession or a clean goodbye. People say Diane Keaton's loyalty was her signature, and maybe her weakness, right to the end, because she protected Woody Allen no matter the headlines, while critics argue that devotion might have cost her the thing she valued most, how people remembered her. Now, in the hush after her death, the big question won't go away. Was she defending a friend, or guarding a secret that never made it past the hat and the smile? Behind that easy laugh and iconic brim, Diane was quietly weathering a storm most never saw coming, her charm covering real heartbreak, none heavier than watching her beloved mother, Dorothy Hall, fade from Alzheimer's over 15 long years, a test of strength that could break anyone. Keaton once called it the longest goodbye, and people close to her swear that pain never really faded. It just learned to hide in plain sight. She poured it all into her memoir, lifting pages from her mother's journals to rebuild a life memory by memory, like stitching together a quilt the years tried to tear apart. She even dropped fragments that hit like confessions. What happened was, and which stunted my growth, little shards of truth that said more than a full chapter could ever say. Then came the twist nobody wanted to face. Whispers that Diane might have been staring down the same cruel fate, and suddenly the room went quiet. Rumors started stacking. Forgetfulness, canceled appearances, a low-key retreat from the spotlight, and Hollywood chatter said her final message, recorded in private just days before the end, felt cryptic, emotional, and timed like she knew what was coming. Diane Keaton, the Oscar-winning icon who helped define an era, passed at 79 in California, and reports say the cause of death remains a mystery, while the family stays silent, and the silence keeps the speculation loud. Some point back to her long fight with eating disorders, a struggle she said nearly swallowed her whole. At one point, she confessed to eating 20,000 calories a day, a dark loop of control and chaos that she later called a mental illness hidden behind a smile. When the woman who turned pain into poetry suddenly went quiet, the streets started buzzing with questions. Fast! Did Diane's final message spill the truth? Or did it vanish with her, locked away after 4 decades in the glare of fame? Diane Keaton was a rare Hollywood survivor, playing by her own rules and somehow staying loved anyway. But survival leaves marks, and the critics circled whenever the light dimmed. The Lemon Sisters, that 1990 stumble, sat on a shelf for more than a year before anyone dared put it out, like the industry got shy when things weren't picture perfect. Then came her directing swing, Heaven, and reviewers waved it off as a conceit imposed on its subjects, a line that shadowed her for years, but she didn't fold, not once. She kept spinning back with new chapters. Actor, director, mother, style rebel, turning wide-brim hats and oversized suits into a quiet revolution that felt fearless and fresh. But Hollywood loves to twist independence into isolation, and the headlines proved it when she adopted her 2 children in her 50s. Split clean down the middle, loud as ever. Some called it courage, others called it vanity, while she moved steady, protecting her peace and building a life on her own terms. And that's the part they never write in gold letters. In the past few months, Diane's health took a sharp left, fast and shocking, and it crushed everyone who loved her, plain and simple. A close friend said it felt so unexpected, especially for someone with that quiet steel and bright spirit behind closed doors. The once vibrant star started fading from view, step by step, until it felt like she was slipping off the map, and her family, always fiercely private, wrapped those final days in silence, tight as a vault. Even longtime friends didn't know the full story because she kept the circle tiny and close, choosing privacy over noise when it mattered most. Looking back, the signs were there. Subtle but chilling, and in March, she stunned fans by listing her dream home, the one she'd once sworn she would never leave, which hit like a plot twist no one saw coming. That 5-bedroom Brentwood estate she restored, brick by brick, over 8 patient years went up for $29 million, and the number sounded like an exclamation all by itself. She'd even written a book about the place. The house that Pinterest built, a love letter to design, memory, and permanence. Something's right because I love it, she said in 2017, but then that lifelong dream landed on the market, and people felt the ground shift under their feet. Not long after, the woman who used to be a familiar sight on Brentwood's quiet streets, walking her dog, chatting with neighbors, rocking the hat and the shades, was just gone, like the block lost a heartbeat overnight. Locals remembered her as friendly, funny, and delightfully eccentric. The kind who talked to her dog like he was human and made it sound normal, charming even. Then she simply stopped being around, which friends called out of character and fans called unsettling. And when whispers about a final message started floating, it all began to sound like a soft